I'll never forget the look on Marcus's face when he came home that Tuesday evening. We've been married for 10 years. 10 years of building a life together, of compromise and sacrifice, of me putting my career on hold to support his ambitions. And there he stood in our living room, the one we decorated together, looking at me like I was a stranger. "Rachel, we need to talk," he said, loosening his tie. That expensive silk tie I'd bought him for his last promotion. I set down the book I was reading. "What's wrong?" He couldn't even look me in the eye. "I've met someone. Her name is Jennifer. She's different, Rachel. She understands me in ways you never could. I think I've found my true love." The words hung in the air like smoke. True love. After 10 years of marriage, after everything we'd been through, he'd found his true love in someone else. "I want a divorce," he continued, his voice gaining confidence now, as if he'd rehearsed this speech. "I know this is sudden, but I can't keep living a lie. Jennifer makes me feel alive again. She's young, she's vibrant, she gets my jokes. We have this connection that's just magical." I sat there processing his words. Part of me wanted to scream, to throw something, to demand answers. How long had this been going on? How could he do this to us? But instead, I felt this strange calm wash over me. Because you see, Marcus had no idea who he was really married to. When we met in college, I was Rachel Chun, a quiet economics major with a knack for numbers. What Marcus didn't know, what I'd kept carefully hidden throughout our marriage, was that I came from one of the wealthiest families in the region. My father, David Chun, owned Chun Industries, a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate with interests in everything from real estate to technology, healthcare to renewable energy. I'd hidden my background intentionally. I wanted to be loved for who I was, not what my family had. I changed my last name, dressed modestly, worked normal jobs, and never touched my trust fund. The small apartment we'd started in, the modest lifestyle we maintained even as Marcus's career took off, it was all my choice. I wanted a normal life, a real marriage built on love, not money. But Marcus had just thrown all of that away. "I see," I said calmly, watching his face. He looked almost disappointed that I wasn't crying or begging. "And this Jennifer, she makes you happy?" "Yes," he said, gaining enthusiasm. "She's a marketing coordinator at my company. We've been working late together and, Rachel, I'm sorry, but I can't help how I feel. You've been a good wife, but we've grown apart. You're always so serious, so focused on budgeting and saving. Jennifer knows how to have fun. She doesn't question when I want to buy nice things or go out." Of course she didn't. She was probably after his money. The irony was almost funny. "I've already talked to a lawyer," Marcus continued. "I'll be fair about the division of assets. You can keep the apartment since I'll be moving in with Jennifer. I'll give you half of our savings. I think that's more than reasonable. Half of our savings. The $45,000 we'd accumulated over the years." He thought he was being generous. I smiled then. Actually smiled. Confused him. "What's funny?" he asked, defensive now. "Nothing," I said, reaching for my phone. "You want a divorce? Fine. But there's someone I need to call first." "Who?" "Your mom." He scoffed. "She never liked me anyway." "No," I said, scrolling through my contacts. "My lawyer. The one who handles my family's legal affairs." The color drained from his face. "What do you mean, your family's legal affairs?" I pressed the call button and put it on speaker. It rang twice before a crisp, professional voice answered. "Miss Chun, what a pleasure to hear from you. How can I help you today?" Marcus's eyes went wide. "Chun? But your last name is..." "I use Thompson professionally," I said smoothly. "Mr. Harrison, I need to discuss filing for divorce. My husband has been having an affair, and I need to ensure my assets are protected." "Of course, Miss Chun. Given the prenuptial agreement your husband signed, this should be quite straightforward. Shall I arrange a meeting to discuss the details?" Marcus looked like he'd been struck by lightning. "Prenup? What prenup? I never signed a..." He stopped, his face going pale as a memory clearly surfaced. "That document your uncle asked me to sign before the wedding. You said it was just a formality, some family tradition thing about maintaining separate property." "That's right," I said. "It was a prenuptial agreement. You signed it in front of witnesses and a notary. You just didn't bother to read it very carefully. Because you were so focused on the wedding, and you trusted me. Mr. Harrison's voice came through the speaker. The agreement clearly states that all assets brought into the marriage by either party remain separate property, and any increase in value of those assets during the marriage also remains separate. It also includes an infidelity clause. What does that mean? Marcus whispered. It means, I said, ending the call and looking at him directly, that the apartment you so generously offered to let me keep, I own it. I bought it in cash before we got married and put only your name on the lease so you'd feel like you were contributing. The car you drive? Registered to a trust in my name. I pay the insurance through a company account. That fancy watch you're wearing? A gift from me, purchased with my money. The country club membership you love so much? I'm the primary member. You're just my guest. His mouth opened and closed like a fish. But you work at that nonprofit. You barely make $40,000 a year. Because I wanted to know that you loved me for me, I said. Not for my money. And for 10 years I thought you did. I lived modestly because I wanted us to build something together, to appreciate what we had. Every dinner out, every vacation, every little luxury. I made sure we could afford it on your salary because I wanted you to feel successful, capable, like you were providing. But your family. He stammered. I met them. They seemed normal. You met them at casual gatherings where I specifically asked them to downplay their wealth. My mother's costume jewelry? Those were real diamonds. Family heirlooms worth more than most people's houses. My father's fishing buddies? CEOs and politicians. That community center where we had our rehearsal dinner? My family's private event space that they rent out for $50,000 a night. They went along with it because I asked them to, because I loved you and wanted you to love me for the right reasons. Marcus put his head in his hands. So what happens now? Now. I stood up, feeling taller than I had in years. Now you get exactly what you asked for. A divorce. According to the prenup, because you committed adultery, you're entitled to exactly 0% of my assets. The $45,000 in our savings account? That's actually from my trust fund, which I deposited in small amounts to make it look like we were saving your paychecks. You'll get half of that, $22,500, plus whatever was genuinely from your income, which I'll have my accountant calculate. Probably another $15,000 or so. You can't be serious. Oh, I'm very serious. The furniture in this apartment? Mine. The art on the walls? Mine, and some of those pieces are worth 6 figures each. The sound system, the appliances, the linens, all mine. You can take your clothes, your personal items, and whatever money is rightfully yours. Everything else stays. He looked around the apartment as if seeing it for the first time. What about my car? You mean the Mercedes? That's a company car from my family's firm. I arranged for you to use it. You'll need to return it. I'm sure Jennifer won't mind giving you rides in her Honda Civic. His face went red. This is vindictive. You're punishing me for being honest about my feelings. I laughed, actually laughed. Honest? Marcus, you've been sneaking around with your coworker for who knows how long. You came home today ready to discard me like yesterday's newspaper. The only thing you were honest about is that you're a cheater and you want a divorce. I'm simply giving you what you asked for. How long? He asked suddenly. How long have you known about Jennifer? That caught me off guard. What? You're too calm about this. Too prepared. How long have you known? I considered lying, but what was the point? 3 months. I hired a private investigator when you started coming home late smelling like perfume that wasn't mine. I have photos, emails, text messages, hotel receipts. I know everything, Marcus. I know about the trips you told me were client conferences. I know about the lingerie you bought that I never received. I know about the apartment you were looking at for the two of you. His face went white. Why didn't you say anything? Because I wanted to see if you'd come clean on your own. I kept hoping you'd realize what you were throwing away and end it. But you didn't. Instead, you came home today and told me you found true love. So now you get to face the consequences of your choices. I'll fight this. I'll take you to court. No judge will let you get away with this. Please do, I said. I have an entire legal team on retainer. My lawyer is one of the best in the country. He's handled divorces for senators, celebrities, Fortune 500 CEOs. And that prenup? It's airtight. My family doesn't do anything halfway. You signed it willingly, it was properly executed, and it's completely enforceable. Besides, do you really want the publicity? Rising marketing executive leaves wife for younger coworker. Discovers wife is billionaire heiress. I can see the headlines now. That stopped him cold. His career. His reputation. His precious image. How long do I have? He asked quietly. I want you out by this weekend. That gives you 4 days to pack your personal belongings and find somewhere to stay. I'm sure Jennifer will welcome you with open arms once she finds out you're not the cat she thought you were. She loves me for who I am. Does she? Or does she love the successful marketing VP, who wears expensive suits and drives a luxury car, and takes her to nice restaurants? What happens when she finds out that was all smoke and mirrors? That you'll be starting over with less than $40,000 to your name and a rental car. The look on his face told me he'd already considered this. I need to make some calls, he said, standing up shakily. Use your cell phone. I'm having the landline disconnected tomorrow. Oh, and Marcus? That gym membership you use every morning? Also mine. I cancel that before you show up tomorrow and get embarrassed. Same with the golf club, the premium cable package, and that wine club you think you belong to. All under my accounts. He walked to our bedroom, his former bedroom, and closed the door. I could hear him on the phone, his voice rising and falling in animated conversation. Probably calling Jennifer, probably painting himself as the victim of some crazy, vindictive wife. I sat back down and picked up my phone again. This time I called my mother. Rachel, darling, it's late. Is everything all right? Marcus wants a divorce. He's been having an affair. There was a long pause. Oh, sweetheart. I'm so sorry. Do you need me to come over? No, I'm okay. Actually, I'm better than okay. I'm done pretending, Mom. I'm done living small to make someone else feel big. Good, she said fiercely. You should have left him years ago. Your father and I could see he was taking you for granted. Why didn't you say anything? Because you needed to figure it out yourself. We tried to warn you gently, but you were in love. Or you thought you were. Sometimes people need to make their own mistakes. Besides, you're our daughter, stubborn and independent. If we'd pushed, you would have dug in deeper. It wasn't a complete mistake, I said. I learned a lot about myself. About what I really want. And what's that? Someone who loves me when I'm at my lowest, not just when I'm at my best. Someone who doesn't need me to be small so they can feel big. Someone who's a partner, not a dependent. You'll find that person, Rachel. You're smart, beautiful, kind, and yes, wealthy, but that's not what makes you special. What makes you special is your heart. The fact that you spent 10 years living in a modest apartment when you could have been in a penthouse, working at a nonprofit when you could have been shopping in Paris, that shows real character. We talked for a while longer, and she promised to have her assistant send over some names of moving companies to help pack up Marcus's things. No need for you to do his manual labor, she said. Let the professionals handle it. After we hung up, I poured myself a glass of wine, a $500 bottle from my family's wine cellar that I'd been saving for a special occasion. This seemed appropriate. I'd had cases of this wine in storage, along with so many other things I denied myself to maintain the illusion of our modest life. Marcus emerged from the bedroom an hour later, his face drawn and exhausted. Jennifer doesn't want to see me, he said. She said this is too messy, that she needs time to think. She thought I was already separated, almost divorced. She didn't realize I was still living with you. I didn't say I told you so, though I wanted to. Instead, I just nodded. I've ruined everything, haven't I? He said. You made your choice. Rachel, He stopped, seeming to struggle with words. Is there any chance we could work this out? Maybe go to counseling? I made a mistake, I see that now, but we have history. We have. No, I said firmly. This isn't about a mistake, Marcus. This is about who you are. You didn't just cheat on me physically. You disrespected me, dismissed me, planned to discard me. You looked me in the eye and told me you found true love with someone else. You don't come back from that. And let's be honest, you don't want me back because you love me. You want me back because you just realized I'm worth hundreds of millions of dollars. If I were really just Rachel the nonprofit worker, you'd be packing your bags right now without a second thought. You'd already be at Jennifer's place, celebrating your freedom. He couldn't argue with that because we both knew it was true. The next few days were awkward. Marcus worked from home, avoiding me, making calls in hushed tones. I went about my normal routine, except now I didn't hide who I really was. I had conference calls with my family's investment team. I reviewed financial reports for the various companies under the Chan Industries umbrella. I video chatted with my father about a new acquisition he was considering, a tech startup in Silicon Valley that showed promise. Marcus watched all of this with growing horror, realizing just how much I'd been hiding, just how far out of his league I'd always been. I caught him Googling my family, reading articles about Chan Industries, calculating in his head just how much he was losing. On Wednesday, 2 days after our conversation, he tried a different approach. "Rachel, I've been thinking," he said over breakfast. A breakfast I'd made because I actually enjoyed cooking, not because I had to. "Maybe we're both being hasty. 10 years is a long time to throw away over one mistake." "One mistake that lasted at least 6 months, I corrected, stirring my coffee. "One mistake that involved hundreds of lies, secret rendezvous, and you planning a whole new life without me." I was confused, going through a midlife crisis or something. But I'm thinking clearly now. We could travel, really travel, not the budget trips we've been doing. We could see the world together. Paris, Tokyo, the Maldives. Wouldn't that be amazing? "You mean the places I've already been?" I asked. "I've been to Paris 17 times, Marcus. I have an apartment there. I've been to Tokyo, the Maldives, Bali, Morocco, Argentina, and dozens of other places. I've just been pretending I haven't so we could take those budget trips, and you could feel like you were showing me the world." His face fell. "Everything was a lie." "Not everything. My feelings for you were real. My commitment to our marriage was real. My willingness to sacrifice my lifestyle for what I thought was love, that was real. The lie was thinking you valued any of it." On Friday, the movers arrived. Professional, efficient, they packed up all of Marcus's belongings in a matter of hours. He stood there watching them work, looking smaller somehow. He'd aged in just a few days, new lines around his eyes, a defeated slump to his shoulders. "Where will you go?" I asked, not because I cared but because it seemed like the polite thing to ask. "I got a short-term rental. Month to month. Until I figure things out. And work." I put in my notice. "Can't really stay there now, can I?" "Not with Jennifer and the rumors already starting. HR called me in yesterday. Apparently, dating a subordinate is a violation of company policy. They were planning to fire me anyway." "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. Not sorry enough to take him back, but sorry that he destroyed his own life so thoroughly. "Are you really?" he asked bitterly. "You seem to have this all planned out pretty well." "I didn't plan for you to cheat, Marcus. I didn't plan for you to throw away our marriage. I just planned for the consequences if you did. There's a difference." The movers finished loading everything into their truck. Marcus took one last look around the apartment, the home I'd provided, the life I'd built for us. "I really did love you, you know," he said. "In the beginning." "I know," I said. "I loved you too. But love isn't enough when there's no respect, no trust, no partnership. And honestly, I'm not sure you ever loved me. I think you loved the idea of me, the supportive wife who made you feel important. But you never really saw me. The real me." "I see you now," he said quietly. "Too late." He nodded, picked up his last bag and walked out the door. I stood at the window and watched the moving truck pull away, carrying Marcus and his modest possessions to whatever life awaited him. Then I called my assistant. Yes, I had an assistant, Margaret, who'd been with my family for 20 years and had been dying for me to stop this charade, and told her to have my real belongings brought out of storage. Finally, Margaret said, "Do you know how hard it's been keeping your secret? I've had to pretend I don't know you every time I've seen you in public for the last decade." "I know, Margaret, and I appreciate your discretion. But now we can be honest. Bring it all, the furniture, the art, the books, everything." The transformation of the apartment took 3 days. Out went the modest, generic furniture Marcus had known, the IKEA bookshelves, the Target lamps, the discount store rugs. And came my true style. A mix of modern and classic, expensive but tasteful, reflecting who I really was. An original Monet here. A sculpture by a renowned contemporary artist there. Furniture custom-made by Italian craftsmen. A sound system that costs more than most people's cars. I had the walls repainted in rich, sophisticated colors. New curtains hung silk, custom-made, perfectly tailored. Fresh flowers delivered daily. Not cheap carnations, but exotic orchids and rare roses that cost $300 per arrangement. I also called my board at the nonprofit and told them I'd be taking a more active role, using my real name now, no more hiding. They were thrilled. With my family's backing, we could expand our programs, help more people, make a real difference. Rachel, or should I say Ms. Chun, this is incredible news, the executive director said. With your family's foundation behind us, we could triple our outreach programs. Let's quadruple them, I said. And I want to start a new initiative focused on helping women leaving abusive or controlling relationships. Women who need financial support to start over. That's very specific, she noted. Personal experience, I said. Not abusive in the traditional sense, but controlling nonetheless. I want to help women who've been made to feel small, who've been told they're not enough. I want to give them the resources to discover their own strength. Word spread quickly in our social circle about the divorce. I got calls from friends, our friends, who quickly became my friends and Marcus's former friends when they heard the truth. Everyone had stories about how they'd noticed Marcus flirting with Jennifer at the company Christmas party, how he'd been acting strange for months, how he'd complained about me being boring and uptight. Why didn't anyone tell me? I asked my best friend Sarah. Over lunch at a restaurant where I no longer had to pretend the prices mattered. We tried to hint, she said. But you seemed happy, or at least content. And honestly, we figured you already knew and were handling it your own way. You always were the most composed person in any room. Plus, some of us suspected you weren't who you pretended to be. What do you mean? Come on, Rachel. You speak 5 languages. You know obscure facts about art and wine and international finance. You have impeccable taste but always bought cheap versions of things. You were too educated, too polished to really be a struggling nonprofit worker. We just didn't know the extent of it. Does everyone know now? Oh honey, everyone knows. Marcus is the laughingstock of the city. The man who had a billionaire wife and threw her away for a fling with a subordinate. It's basically a cautionary tale. I felt a twinge of sympathy for Marcus, but it passed quickly. He'd made his choices. 3 weeks after Marcus left, the divorce was finalized. My lawyers worked fast. Marcus signed everything without protest. What choice did he have? The prenup was ironclad, and fighting it would only cost him money he didn't have and expose him to more public humiliation. I heard through the grapevine that Jennifer had indeed broken things off with him. Apparently, once the fairy tale of the successful executive disappeared, along with his job, his car, and his country club membership, so did her interest. She'd started dating someone else within 2 weeks, another executive at the company, this one actually wealthy in his own right. Marcus had moved back in with his parents at age 38, and was looking for a new job in a tough market. With a termination on his record for violating company policy and the scandal following him, opportunities were scarce. I didn't feel happy about his misfortune, but I didn't feel bad either. He'd made his choices. He'd chosen to cheat, to lie, to betray our vows. These were the consequences. My mother threw me a divorce party, her idea not mine, at the family estate. It was attended by society's elite, business leaders, philanthropists, and celebrities. People who'd known me my whole life but had been kept at arm's length during my marriage to Marcus. Welcome back to the land of the living, my father said, raising his glass in a toast. We've missed you, Rachel. The real you. I've missed me too, I admitted. As for me, I was thriving. I started dating again, casually at first, then more seriously. I was upfront now about who I was, my background, my family, my expectations. I figured if someone couldn't handle it, better to know right away. The first few dates were disasters. Men who were clearly intimidated by my wealth, or worse, men who saw me as a meal ticket. One guy actually asked if I'd invest in his revolutionary cryptocurrency scheme on our first date. Another spent the entire evening talking about his struggling business and how a small loan could turn things around. Is this what dating is like? I asked Sarah after a particularly bad evening with a guy who'd literally pulled out a business plan at dessert. For you? Probably, she laughed. You're beautiful, brilliant, and worth more money than most people will see in 10 lifetimes. You're going to attract some weirdos, but you'll also attract some genuine people. You just have to be patient. I met David, different from my father, though they shared the same name, at a charity auction. I was there representing my family's foundation, bidding on various items to support children's literacy programs. He was there as a donor and volunteer, having recently completed a medical mission in South America. He was handsome in an understated way, tall with kind eyes and smile lines that suggested he laughed often. When the bidding started on a private dinner with a celebrity chef, we found ourselves competing for it. The price climbed higher and higher. Finally, at $50,000, he turned to me and said, "You know what? Let's split it. We each pay $25,000, and we both get to attend the dinner. That way the charity gets the same amount, and we both get what we want." It was so practical, so considerate, so different from the testosterone-fueled posturing I'd been experiencing on other dates. "Deal," I said, shaking his hand. After the auction, we chatted while the organizers processed our donations. "I'm David, by the way. David Morrison. Rachel Chun. As in Chun Industries Chun?" I braced myself for the usual reaction, the sudden calculation in the eyes, the subtle shift in body language. But it didn't come. "That must be complicated," he said simply. "What do you mean?" "Being from a well-known family. Everyone has preconceived notions about you before they even meet you. Must make it hard to connect with people genuinely." It was such a perceptive observation that I found myself opening up to him in a way I hadn't with anyone in a long time. "It is complicated," I admitted. "I actually spent the last 10 years pretending to be someone else entirely." "How'd that work out?" "Not well. I ended up married to someone who loved the fake me, but probably would have hated the real me." "His loss," David said, and there was nothing flirtatious or calculating in his tone, just simple sincerity. We talked for hours that night. I learned he was a cardiothoracic surgeon, successful in his own right, not intimidated by my wealth but not overly impressed either. He'd grown up middle class, paid his own way through medical school, and now split his time between a prestigious hospital and volunteer medical work abroad. "Money's useful," he said when I asked about his lack of interest in wealth, "but I've seen too many people die on my operating table to think it's what matters most. Health, love, purpose, those are what matter. Everything else is just details." On our third date, over dinner at a small Italian restaurant he'd chosen, I told him about Marcus, about the decade of hiding who I was, about the divorce. "Why did you hide it?" he asked, twirling pasta around his fork. "Your success, I mean. Your family's success. Weren't you proud of them, of yourself?" "I was," I said. "But I'd seen what money did to people. How it changed them, made them fake, made it hard to trust anyone's intentions. I grew up watching people befriend me because of my family's name, not because they actually liked me. I wanted to be sure Marcus loved me, not my bank account. And did he? I thought so. For a while maybe he did. But people change. Or maybe he didn't change, maybe I just finally saw who he really was. He resented me for being boring with money, for wanting to save and budget. But he had no idea we could have afforded anything he wanted. He just couldn't appreciate what we had because he always wanted more." David reached across the table and took my hand. "For what it's worth, I think you're fascinating with or without the money. Though I have to admit, the fact that you willingly lived in a modest apartment and worked at a non-profit when you could have been living in luxury? That says more about your character than anything else could. You don't think it was dishonest? Hiding who I was. I think it was self-protective. And understandable. When you have something everyone wants, it's hard to know who to trust." He paused. "For the record, I don't want your money. I make a comfortable living, I love my work, and I don't need or want more than I have. What I do want is to get to know the real you, all of you. The non-profit volunteer and the billionaire heiress. The woman who lived in a modest apartment and the woman who owns a place in Paris. All of it." I felt tears prick my eyes. "Why?" "Because from what I've seen so far, you're extraordinary." Over the next few months, David proved his words with actions. He never asked me to pay for things, always insisting on splitting checks or taking turns. When I invited him to a charity gala that required black tie attire, he rented a tux rather than asking me to buy him one. When I offered to take him on a trip to Paris, he said he'd love to go but wanted to save up for his own ticket. "David, I can afford." I started. I know you can, he interrupted gently. But I can't. Not yet. And I need to contribute equally to this relationship. It's important to me. Why? Ego. No. Self-respect. I'm not with you for your money, Rachel. I need to know that I can hold my own, that I'm your partner, not your dependent. Does that make sense? It made perfect sense. It was what I'd been looking for all along. Someone who didn't need me for what I could give them, but wanted me for who I was. Eventually, David did let me treat him to things, but only after he'd done the same for me in his own way. He cooked me elaborate dinners at his apartment. He took me hiking in places money couldn't access. He introduced me to his world, the hospital where he worked, the community clinic where he volunteered, his friends from medical school who were brilliant and funny and completely unconcerned with wealth or status. This is nice, I told him one evening, curled up on his couch in his modest apartment, being with someone who sees me as just me. You're not just anything, he said. You're complex and multifaceted. You contain multitudes, as they say. That's what makes you interesting. 6 months into our relationship, I had to attend a major business conference where my family was being honored for philanthropic work. It meant a week in New York, staying at the Plaza, attending multiple events with society's elite. Come with me, I said to David. I have surgeries scheduled. Reschedule them, please. I want you there. I want you to see that part of my life too. He hesitated, then agreed. Okay, but I'm paying for my own room. We're not sharing a room? He grinned. Well, when you put it that way. The conference was everything I told him it would be: opulent, excessive, full of power players and social climbers. I watched David navigate it all with the same calm confidence he brought to everything. He didn't seem intimidated by the wealth on display or impressed by the famous names. He talked to billionaires and waiters with the same genuine interest. At the gala dinner, where my father was receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award, David leaned over and whispered, "That woman over there has been staring at you for 10 minutes. Friend of yours." I looked where he indicated and felt my stomach drop. It was Jennifer. Marcus's Jennifer. That's my ex-husband's mistress, I said quietly. Ah, want to leave? No. I want to know what she's doing here. I didn't have to wait long to find out. During the cocktail hour after dinner, Jennifer approached me. Rachel, fancy seeing you here. Jennifer, this is a charity gala for education reform. Are you involved in education? I'm here with Harrison Blackwell, she said, naming a hedge fund manager known for his expensive divorces. We've been dating for a few months. Congratulations, I said neutrally. I wanted to apologize, she said, and she actually looked sincere. For the thing with Marcus. I didn't know he was still living with you. He told me you were separated, almost divorced. If I'd known the truth, I never would have. It's fine, I interrupted. Marcus made his own choices. So did you. It all worked out in the end. I heard about who you really are, she said. Chun Industries. I had no idea. Marcus must have been kicking himself. Marcus made his bed. He's lying in it now. Jennifer glanced at David, who was chatting with my father nearby. Is that your boyfriend? He's handsome. He's a surgeon. And yes, we're together. Good for you, she said, and she sounded like she meant it. Marcus is. Well, he's having a hard time. Lost his job, his apartment, everything. I felt bad about it for a while, but honestly, he was using me too. He wanted a young girlfriend to make him feel important. When I realized that, I ended things. Good for you, I echoed. She left after that, and David came back to my side. Everything okay? Fine. Just closing a chapter. But the universe wasn't done with me yet. 2 days later, back in our home city, I ran into Marcus himself. I was leaving a restaurant after a business lunch when I literally bumped into him on the sidewalk. Rachel, he said, and he looked terrible. Thinner, older, with the air of a man who'd lost everything. Marcus, how are you? I'm managing. Living with my parents, looking for work. It's been rough. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you really? He looked at me searchingly. Or are you happy to see me suffering? I'm not happy about it, I said honestly. But I'm not losing sleep over it either. You made your choices, Marcus. I know. And I regret them every day. Not just because of the money, he added quickly. I regret losing you. The real you. I wish I'd known. You would have known if you'd ever really looked at me, I said. If you'd ever asked me about my dreams, my past, my family. But you never did. You were too busy seeing me as a supporting character in your story. He flinched. That's fair. I was selfish. I took you for granted. Yes, you did. For what it's worth, I'm trying to be better. I'm in therapy. I'm working on myself. And I wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Genuinely sorry for how I treated you. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw someone who seemed genuinely changed by his experiences. Humbled. Broken down and maybe possibly building himself back up into someone better. I appreciate that, I said. And I hope you find what you're looking for. Just find it in yourself, not in someone else. We parted ways and I felt a sense of closure I hadn't realized I needed. That evening I told David about the encounter. Do you still have feelings for him? He asked. No, but I don't hate him either. I just feel nothing. He's a person I used to know who made bad choices. I hope he becomes better, but it's not my problem anymore. That's very mature of you. I've had time to process. And honestly, meeting you helped me realize what I was missing in that marriage. Marcus never really saw me. You do. 6 months later, David proposed. Not with some elaborate public display, but during a quiet moment at home, cooking dinner together in my kitchen. Marry me, he said, stopping mid-stir to look at me. What? Marry me. I love you. All of you. I want to spend my life with you. I want to support your dreams and let you support mine. I want to be your partner in everything. So, marry me. You don't have a ring, I pointed out. I do actually. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a simple box. Inside was a stunning emerald-cut diamond in a platinum setting. Not the biggest diamond in the world, but absolutely perfect. David, this must have cost 3 months' salary. I know, that's the old guideline and it's probably considered outdated and sexist now, but I wanted to do this right. I wanted you to know that I'm serious about this, about us. That I'm investing in our future. I started crying. It's perfect. You're perfect. Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. This time there was no prenup. No hiding. No pretending. We got married in a ceremony that was everything I'd wanted the first time but had suppressed to make Marcus comfortable. Big, lavish, with my family's wealth on full display. I wore a $50,000 custom Vera Wang dress. I didn't care. It made me feel like a princess, and David's face when he saw me walk down the aisle made every penny worth it. My father walked me down the aisle, and as we passed the guests, I saw Marcus sitting in the back. I'd invited him, not to be cruel, but because I'd truly moved on and wanted him to see that. Wanted him to see what he'd lost and what I'd gained. He looked older, tired, but also somehow more at peace than I'd seen him in years. He was there with a date, a woman named Lisa who he'd introduced me to when she'd RSVP'd. She seemed nice, normal, age-appropriate. She worked as a teacher and drove a practical sedan. Maybe Marcus had learned something after all. After the ceremony, during the reception at my family's estate, no more pretending it was a community center. Marcus approached me. Congratulations, he said. You look happy. I am, I said simply. I heard your husband is a surgeon. That's nice. He's more than that. He's kind, thoughtful, and he loves me for who I am. All of who I am. Marcus nodded, looking at his feet. I was a fool. Yes, I agreed. You were. Do you think you could ever forgive me? I considered this. I already have, Marcus. Holding on to anger doesn't serve me. But forgiving you doesn't mean forgetting what you did. And it doesn't mean we can be friends. It just means I've let go of the hurt and moved on with my life. I understand. He paused. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I'm genuinely sorry for how I treated you. You deserved so much better. I know, I said without malice. And now I have it. He walked away, and I watched him leave with Lisa, realizing I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no satisfaction at his downfall. Just nothing. He was a chapter in my life that had closed. David came up beside me, wrapping an arm around my waist. Was that him? Yeah. Are you okay? I'm perfect, I said, and I meant it. Looking back now, 3 years later, I'm grateful for everything that happened. Marcus's betrayal, painful as it was, freed me. It taught me that hiding who you are to make someone else comfortable is never worth it. It taught me that real love doesn't require you to be smaller, quieter, less than you are. My life now is full and authentic. I run my family's foundation openly, making real change in the world. We've expanded our programs to help thousands of women and children. I serve on the boards of multiple charities and companies. I use my privilege and resources to make a difference. I have a husband who celebrates my success instead of feeling threatened by it. David still works as a surgeon, still does his medical missions, still insists on contributing equally to our household expenses even though I keep telling him it's unnecessary. We split our time between my penthouse in the city and a house we bought together in the countryside. I have friends who value me for who I am, all of who I am. We travel together, laugh together, support each other through life's ups and downs. I have my self-respect back. I wear designer clothes when I want to. I drive the car I want to drive. I donate generously to causes I care about. I don't hide my success or my family's wealth, but I also don't flaunt it unnecessarily. I found a balance that feels right. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if Marcus had never cheated, if we'd stayed together. Would I still be living that lie? Would I have woken up one day, 20 years into the marriage, and realized I wasted my life pretending to be someone I wasn't? I think the affair, as devastating as it felt at the time, was a gift. It forced me to stop hiding, to reclaim my identity, to demand the life I deserved. David and I recently had a daughter, Emily. Holding her in my arms, I made a promise. I would never teach her to hide her light to make others comfortable. I would raise her to be proud of who she is, to demand respect, to settle for nothing less than genuine love. What are you thinking about? David asked one evening, as I nursed Emily in the nursery we decorated together. About how different my life is now. How happy I am. No regrets. None. Well, maybe one. What's that? I regret not doing this sooner. Not standing up for myself sooner. I wasted 10 years trying to be someone I wasn't. You weren't wasting time, David said, kissing my forehead. You were learning, growing, becoming the person you are now. Everything that happened led you here, to this moment. To us. To Emily. Would you really change that? He was right. As painful as the journey was, it had brought me to where I needed to be. So when I think back to that Tuesday evening when Marcus told me he'd found true love and wanted a divorce, when I remember smiling and making that one phone call to my lawyer, I realized that was the moment my real life began. That was the moment I stopped being who Marcus needed me to be and started being who I actually was. And that made all the difference. I saw Marcus one more time about a year ago at a mutual friend's funeral. We spoke briefly, cordially. He'd married Lisa, the teacher he'd been dating. They seemed content, if not passionately in love. He'd found work at a smaller marketing firm, making decent money but nothing like he'd made before. You look good, he said. Happy. I am. You seem well too. I'm getting there. Lisa's been good for me. She keeps me grounded. Reminds me what actually matters. I'm glad. I heard about your daughter. Congratulations. Thank you. Rachel, I just want you to know. Thank you. For what? For not completely destroying me. You could have. You had every right to. But you didn't. You gave me enough to start over. And that experience, as painful as it was, it changed me. Made me a better person. So, thank you. I nodded, accepting his gratitude. We both needed to move on. I hope you're happy, Marcus. I really do. I am. Not billionaire happy, he added with a wry smile. But genuinely happy. And I hope the same for you. I have everything I need, I said, glancing at David across the room holding Emily. Everything I could ever want. And it was true. My life wasn't perfect, no life is. But it was authentic. It was mine. And it was full of love, purpose, and joy. Sometimes I think about Jennifer too. I heard she eventually married Harrison, the hedge fund manager, then divorced him 2 years later with a substantial settlement. She'd learned to play the game. I don't judge her for it. Everyone makes their own choices, walks their own path. As for me, I'd found my path. It had been winding, painful at times, but ultimately worth every step. I'd learned that true love isn't about hiding who you are. It's about being seen fully and completely and being loved anyway. Being loved because of who you are, not in spite of it. That one phone call I made 3 years ago when Marcus asked for a divorce. It didn't just end a marriage. It started a revolution in my life. It was the first step toward reclaiming myself, my identity, my power. And I've never looked back since. Life has a funny way of bringing things full circle. 2 years after my daughter Emily was born, I received an unexpected call from my assistant Margaret. "Rachel, you have a visitor at the foundation office. She says it's urgent and personal." "Who is it?" "A woman named Melissa Anderson. She claims she's Marcus's new wife's sister." I was confused. "Lisa's sister? What does she want?" "She wouldn't say. But she seems distressed. Should I send her away?" I thought about it. My first instinct was to say yes, send her away. Marcus and his new life weren't my concern anymore. But something in Margaret's tone made me curious. "No, I'll see her. Give me 20 minutes. When I arrived at the foundation office, I found a woman in her early 30s sitting in the waiting area. She looked nervous, clutching her purse like a lifeline. "Miss Chan? Thank you for seeing me. I know this is strange." "It is," I agreed, leading her to my private office. "What can I do for you?" "It's about Marcus. And my sister Lisa." I held up a hand. "I'm sorry, but Marcus is my ex-husband. Whatever issues he and your sister are having, it's not my place to get involved. Please just hear me out. This isn't about their marriage. It's about you. About what Marcus did to you." Now she had my attention. "Go on." Lisa told me everything about Marcus's first marriage. About how he cheated, how he tried to take advantage of you, how he lost everything because of his own stupidity. And at first I was sympathetic. He seemed like he'd learned his lesson, you know? He was humble, working hard, treating my sister well. But last month, I overheard him talking on the phone with someone. A lawyer, I think. He was asking about challenging a prenuptial agreement, about whether there was any way to prove coercion or lack of proper disclosure. He mentioned your name. Rachel Chun. My blood ran cold. He's trying to challenge our prenup? After all this time. That's what it sounded like. And when I confronted Lisa about it, she broke down. Apparently Marcus has been obsessed with the idea that he was tricked, that he's entitled to something from you. He's convinced himself that if he can prove you deliberately hid your wealth to deceive him, he could make a case for fraud. I leaned back in my chair, processing this information. That's absurd. The prenup was legal and binding. He signed it of his own free will. I know that. You know that. But Marcus is desperate. His marriage to Lisa isn't going well. He resents her for not being wealthy, for not being able to give him the lifestyle he thinks he deserves. He's drowning in debt from legal consultations. And he's convinced that if he could just get a piece of your fortune, all his problems would be solved. Why are you telling me this? Lisa is your sister. Melissa looked down at her hands. Because it's wrong. And because Lisa is miserable. She's trapped in a marriage with a man who doesn't really love her, who sees her as a placeholder until he can figure out how to get rich. I thought maybe if you knew what he was planning, you could protect yourself. And maybe somehow it would help Lisa too. I studied her carefully. She seemed genuine, but I'd learned to be cautious. Thank you for the warning. I'll speak with my lawyers. There's more, Melissa said. Marcus has been in contact with Jennifer. Jennifer? His former mistress. Yes. She divorced her hedge fund husband and got a big settlement. Marcus has been trying to convince her to loan him money to fund his legal battle against you. He's promised her a cut if he wins. I couldn't help it, I laughed. The audacity of it all was almost impressive. Jennifer is many things, but she's not stupid. She won't give him money. She already did. $50,000. He told her it was an investment opportunity. That wiped the smile off my face. Marcus was more desperate than I'd thought. And desperate people do dangerous things. After Melissa left, I immediately called my lawyer, Mr. Harrison. Rachel, good to hear from you. How's married life? Good, but we have a problem. Marcus is apparently trying to challenge our prenup. There was a long pause. On what grounds? I explained everything Melissa had told me. Mr. Harrison listened without interrupting, and I could hear him typing notes. "Well, this is interesting," he said finally. "But ultimately futile. The prenup was properly executed. You didn't commit fraud. You simply didn't volunteer information about your wealth, which you had no legal obligation to do. And he had the opportunity to investigate your background before marriage but chose not to. Any competent judge would throw this out. But he could still file, drag this out, make it public. Yes, he could try. It would be expensive for him and ultimately unsuccessful, but yes, he could make noise. Would you like me to send him a cease and desist letter?" "No," I said, an idea forming. "I want to meet with him, face to face. With you present, of course." "Rachel, I'm not sure that's wise. Trust me. I know exactly what I'm doing." A week later, Marcus sat across from me in Mr. Harrison's conference room. He'd aged even more in the past year. His hair was graying at the temples, and there were deep lines around his mouth. He looked cornered, desperate. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," I said calmly. "I didn't really have a choice, did I? Your lawyer made it clear that if I didn't come, you'd pursue harassment charges." "Let's skip the pleasantries," Mr. Harrison said. "Mr. Thompson, we're aware that you've been consulting with attorneys about challenging the prenuptial agreement you signed before your marriage to my client. We're here to explain why that would be a catastrophically bad decision." Marcus's jaw tightened. I was deceived. Rachel lied about who she was. "I never lied," I interrupted. "I simply didn't volunteer information. There's a difference. You never asked about my family, my background, my finances. You assumed, and your assumptions were wrong. That's not fraud. You deliberately created a false impression." "Did I? Or did you see what you wanted to see? A quiet, supportive wife who made you feel important? Someone who wouldn't challenge you or outshine you?" He flinched but pressed on. "Any judge would see that I was taken advantage of. Any judge would see that you're a man who cheated on his wife, got caught, and is now trying to profit from his own bad behavior," Mr. Harrison interjected. "And let me be very clear about what would happen if you pursue this case. First, we would countersue for frivolous litigation. Second, we would make public every detail of your affair with Ms. Jennifer Reynolds, including the hotel receipts, the emails, the text messages. We still have all of it. We'd also subpoena your current financial records," I added. "Which means Lisa would find out about the money you borrowed from Jennifer, the money you've been hiding from her, the money you've spent on lawyers instead of your household bills." Marcus went pale. "You wouldn't." "Try me," I said. "You seem to have forgotten who you're dealing with, Marcus. I have resources you can't even imagine. I could bury you in legal fees, drag this out for years, and not even notice the expense. Can you say the same? This is blackmail." "This is reality," Mr. Harrison corrected. "My client is simply explaining the consequences of your actions. You have a choice. Drop this foolish crusade and move on with your life, or pursue it and lose everything. Your marriage, your reputation, what little money you have left, and any chance of ever rebuilding your career." Marcus looked between us, his face red with anger and humiliation. "I just want what's fair." "You got what was fair," I said. "You got exactly what the prenup stipulated. You got to walk away from our marriage with your share. What you didn't get was a reward for betraying me. And you're not going to get one now, no matter how many lawyers you consult or how many schemes you cook up. I made a mistake." He sat there for a long moment, his shoulders sagging in defeat. Fine. I'll drop it. We'll need that in writing," Mr. Harrison said, sliding a document across the table. "This is a binding agreement stating that you will never again attempt to challenge the prenuptial agreement or make any financial claims against Rachel Chun or her family. Sign it." Marcus read through the document, his hands shaking slightly. Then, without a word, he signed it. As he stood to leave, I stopped him. "Marcus, wait. I want to say something." He turned wary. "I don't hate you. I did for a while. But I don't anymore. What I feel for you now is pity. You had a good life. Not a flashy one, but a good one. And you threw it away because you couldn't appreciate what you had. And now you're doing it again with Lisa. You're so focused on what you don't have that you can't see what's right in front of you. You don't know anything about my marriage. I know that Lisa's sister came to warn me about your plans because she's worried about her. I know that you borrowed money from your ex-mistress and hid it from your wife. I know that you're repeating the same patterns that destroyed our marriage. And if you don't change, really change, not just pretend to change, you're going to end up alone. Why do you care? I don't really. But I remember who you were when we first met. You weren't a bad person, Marcus. You were flawed, selfish, weak sometimes. But you weren't cruel. Somewhere along the way, bitterness and entitlement turned you into someone I don't recognize. And that's sad. For you, and for everyone who has to deal with you. He left without responding, and I watched him go feeling oddly at peace. I'd said what I needed to say. The rest was up to him. That was generous of you, Mr. Harrison said after Marcus had gone. The advice, I mean. Most people wouldn't bother. I'm not most people. And maybe, just maybe, something I said will get through to him. If not for his sake, then for Lisa's. I went home that evening to find David in the kitchen, making dinner while Emily sat in her high chair, smearing mashed sweet potato on every available surface. How did it go? He asked, kissing me hello. It went. Marcus signed the agreement. He won't be bothering us again. Good. Though I still think you should have let me come with you. To do what? Glower protectively? I had Mr. Harrison for that. I'm very good at glowering protectively, David protested. It's one of my best skills. I laughed and scooped up Emily's sweet potato and all. Your daddy thinks he's intimidating. Dada! Emily shouted, reaching for him with sticky hands. This was my life now. Sweet potato-covered chaos and a husband who wanted to glower protectively at my ex. It was messy and imperfect and absolutely wonderful. 3 months later I received a letter. Not from Marcus but from Lisa. Dear Rachel, I hope this letter finds you well. I wanted to write to thank you for whatever you said to Marcus at that meeting. I don't know the details, he won't tell me. But something changed afterward. He came home that day and told me everything. About the lawyer, about Jennifer's money, about his plan to go after you. He apologized, really apologized, and said he was going to therapy. Real therapy this time, not just a few sessions to make me feel better. We're working on our marriage. It's not easy. There's a lot of resentment and hurt to work through. But for the first time I feel like he's actually present, actually trying to be a better person instead of just trying to appear better. Melissa told me what you said to her about protecting myself. I've taken that advice. I've opened my own bank account, consulted with a lawyer about my rights, and I'm teaching summer school to build up my own savings. I won't be dependent on Marcus, not completely. I don't know if our marriage will survive. But if it doesn't, I'll be okay. And that's because of you, in a way. You showed me that it's possible to rebuild after a marriage ends, to come out stronger on the other side. Thank you for not destroying him even though you could have. Thank you for giving him a chance to change. And thank you for the example you've set of a woman who knows her worth and won't settle for less. With gratitude, Lisa. I showed the letter to David that night. That's nice, he said. Do you think Marcus will actually change? I don't know. Maybe. People can change if they really want to. The question is whether he wants to badly enough. What about you? Do you think you've changed? I thought about it. Yes and no. I think I've become more myself, if that makes sense. The person I was always meant to be before I started hiding to make others comfortable. But the core of who I am, that hasn't changed. I still care about helping people. I still value honesty and loyalty. I still want to make a difference. Good, David said, pulling me close. Because I really like who you are. Life continued its forward march. Emily grew from a baby into a precocious toddler who inherited my stubbornness and David's charm. The foundation expanded its programs. David was promoted to chief of cardiothoracic surgery. We bought a beach house where we spent summers teaching Emily to swim and build sandcastles. I heard, through the grapevine, that Marcus and Lisa were still together. He'd gotten a better job, they bought a modest house, and they seemed to be making it work. I was genuinely happy for them. Not everyone gets a second chance, and it seemed like Marcus was trying to make the most of his. As for Jennifer, I heard she'd started her own marketing firm and was doing quite well. Good for her. She'd played the game, learned the rules, and was now writing her own. Not with the party. With your life. You could have become bitter after what Marcus did. You could have closed yourself off, decided all men were the same. But you didn't. You stayed open to love. And you found it. I got lucky. Luck had nothing to do with it. You made good choices. You knew what you wanted and wouldn't settle for less. That's not luck. That's wisdom. I learned from the best, I said, squeezing her hand. Later that evening, after the guests had left and Emily was asleep, David and I sat on our balcony watching the sunset. What are you thinking about? He asked. About how different my life is from what I imagined at 25. I thought I'd marry Marcus, have kids, live modestly, and be happy. I thought hiding who I was would protect me. Do you regret it? Any of it? No. Even the painful parts led me here. To you, to Emily, to this life. I wouldn't change anything. Not even the 10 years with Marcus? Not even that. Those years taught me what I didn't want. They taught me the cost of hiding yourself. They taught me that love without respect isn't really love at all. All of that made me ready for you. He kissed my temple. You know what I love most about you? What? Your strength. Not the Chen Industries strength or the billionaire strength, but the strength to be vulnerable, to love again after being hurt, to forgive without forgetting, to help people even when they don't deserve it. That kind of strength is rare. I love you, I said simply. I love you too. All of you. The quiet economics major and the powerful heiress. The nonprofit volunteer and the foundation director. The woman who lived in a modest apartment and the woman who owns a penthouse. Every version of you is amazing. And that, I realized, was what I'd been searching for all along. Someone who didn't need me to choose which version of myself to be. Someone who loved all of me, not despite my complexity but because of it. 4 years after Marcus walked out of my apartment, I received one final communication from him. A simple card in the mail. Rachel, I heard about your daughter's birthday through mutual friends. Congratulations on your beautiful family. You deserve all the happiness in the world. I'm writing to say thank you and goodbye. Thank you for the second chance you gave me even though you had no obligation to. Thank you for not destroying me when you could have. And thank you for the lessons you taught me, even the painful ones. I'm finally at peace with my life. Lisa and I are expecting a baby. I've been promoted at work. I'm genuinely happy not because of what I have, but because of who I am becoming. It took losing everything to realize that the things I was chasing, wealth, status, excitement, were never going to fulfill me. What fulfills me is being a good husband, a good father soon, a good person. This is goodbye because I think we both need to fully close that chapter. I wish you nothing but joy. You were right, I couldn't appreciate what I had. But I'm learning to appreciate what I have now. Take care. Marcus. I showed the card to David. How do you feel about this? He asked. Good. Really good. Feels like closure. Real closure. Are you going to respond? No. He's right. It's time to fully close that chapter. I hope he's happy. I hope he's really changed. But his life isn't my concern anymore. I tucked the card away in a drawer and never looked at it again. Some chapters close with dramatic endings. Others just quietly end, and that's okay too. Now, 5 years after that fateful Tuesday when Marcus asked for a divorce, I can honestly say I'm grateful for every moment of my journey. The hiding, the betrayal, the divorce, the rebuilding, all of it shaped me. I run a foundation that changes lives. I have a marriage built on honesty and mutual respect. I have a daughter who will grow up knowing she never has to hide her light for anyone. I have friends who value authenticity. I have a life that feels true. And sometimes, when I'm at a charity event or a business meeting, I'll catch myself thinking about that moment. The moment Marcus told me he wanted a divorce and I smiled and made one call. That moment of choice. I could have begged, cried, tried to change his mind. Instead, I chose myself. That one call set everything in motion. It ended a marriage that was slowly suffocating me. It forced me back into my authentic life. It cleared the path for real love to find me. So when people ask me if I regret my first marriage, I tell them no. I don't regret it. I learned from it. And when they ask what I learned, I tell them this. Never make yourself smaller to make someone else comfortable. Never hide your truth to make someone else's lie easier. Never settle for being loved conditionally. And always know your worth even if you have to pretend not to for a while. Because in the end, the truth will come out. And when it does, you want to be standing in it proudly, not cowering from it in shame. That Tuesday evening when I made that one phone call, I chose truth over comfort. I chose myself over settling. I chose freedom over a comfortable prison. And that choice changed everything. My life isn't perfect. No life is. But it's mine. Fully, completely, authentically mine. And that's worth more than any amount of money, any comfortable lie, any false peace. Marcus found his true love and wanted a divorce. I smiled, made one call, and found my true self. In the end, we both got exactly what we needed. So that's my story. The story of how one devastating Tuesday evening became the catalyst for the most transformative period of my life. Looking back, I realized that Marcus asking for a divorce wasn't the end of something. It was the beginning. The beginning of authenticity, of self-respect, of real love. That one phone call I made didn't just protect my assets. It reclaimed my entire life. If you're reading this and you're in a situation where you're hiding who you are, making yourself smaller, or settling for less than you deserve, please know that you don't have to. You deserve to be loved for all of who you are, not just the parts that make someone else comfortable. And if you're going through a betrayal, a divorce, or any kind of ending right now, I want you to know that endings can be beginnings in disguise. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the best thing that could have happened. It just doesn't feel that way at the time. My journey from hiding my identity to reclaiming it, from a broken marriage to a beautiful one, from self-doubt to self-assurance, it wasn't easy. But it was worth it. Every tear, every difficult conversation, every moment of uncertainty led me to where I am today. And where I am today is exactly where I'm supposed to be. Thank you so much for reading my story. I hope it resonated with you, inspired you, or at least entertained you for a little while. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like this video. It really helps the algorithm share these stories with more people who might need to hear them. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, I'd love it if you'd hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. We share real-life experiences, relationship journeys, and life lessons every week. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think.